Hi, Philip A. McClyman here. Just wanted to thank you for listening to my podcast. It's a blast making it, and an even bigger blast knowing you are enjoying it. If you are enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting it with a one-time donation of $3, which is about the price of a cheap cup of coffee. The link to do that is in the show notes, right there at the top. I am usually drinking coffee when I record the podcast, so it kind of makes sense. Okay, thanks again for listening. On to the next episode, and the next cup of coffee.
Human. Extinction level. Loss.
In other news. From the studios of KWTR, it's the 6 o'clock news hour with Charlie Hinson and Denise Clark. Good evening, I'm Charlie Hinson. And I'm Denise Clark. Tragedy today of epic proportions. A gas explosion at a commuter airport kills upwards of 40 people. Information is still coming in, but the destruction seems to be total, both in the loss of life and property. For more on this, we go to our reporter in the field, Sally Richards. Sally, what can you tell us about what happened out there? Well, Denise, I'm here at the Parker County Commuter Airport, and the scene speaks for itself. Total devastation. We are about a mile from the actual site of the explosion, but as you can see, the airport is still burning. Even at this distance, we can feel some of the heat from the fires. Precious little is known at this time except that a gas line exploded, setting off a chain reaction that caused total destruction of the property and claimed the lives of about 40 people. The destruction was not limited to just the Parker County Airport. The gas line ran from the airport underground to a trailer park nearby. We are told the name of that park is Delacroix's Delight Trailer Park. We have learned that a Mrs. Marguerite Delacroix owned the property and rented out the mobile homes. That park also was destroyed. Authorities and fire and medical personnel have been on site for several hours and still have not been able to get the blaze under any kind of real control. During an earlier press conference, I had the opportunity to ask Fire Chief Benny Lowen if he thought there would be any survivors from such an explosion. He told me that this is the worst conflagration he has seen in his 20 years of firefighting, and that it would be a miracle if anybody could survive something like this. Once again, a gas explosion has occurred at the Parker County Commuter Airport and at Delacroix's Delight Trailer Park, with what now appears to be total loss of life and property. For KWTR, this is Sally Richards reporting. Charlie, Denise, back to you. Just tragic, Sally. Charlie here. Are authorities saying anything about identifying the bodies of those who died and when relatives might be notified? Well, Charlie, from what we are hearing, that is going to be a monumental and difficult task. The explosion was so disruptive and the flames so hot, it literally cremated the victims. Medical personnel are not even confident that dental records will aid them in identification. There is just nothing left. With the airport obliterated, authorities are hoping the passenger manifests were stored off-site so that they can try to get a handle on just who might have perished here. The trailer park likewise provides its own difficulties. At this point, it could be quite some time. Okay, well, thanks for following that story for us, Sally. We'll check back in with you later. In other news, we go from the tragic to the downright bizarre. It seems there were several assaults today at a local strip joint known as the Beaver Dam. It started when one of the employees, Jenny Harper, became highly aggressive and began attacking her boss, one Bartholomew Smalls. The attack came in the form of bites, and some of them quite severe. Witnesses said Mr. Smalls was in his office in the back when they heard him screaming. When several employees went in to see what was the matter, Miss Harper started attacking them as well. She seemed to calm down shortly thereafter, but fled the scene before the police arrived. Authorities are asking for your help tonight in locating Miss Harper. Newer test subjects. Colonel Stephen Bennett sat in his darkened office. A small desk lamp was on, its light casting him in deep shadow. He stared straight ahead and waited for the phone call he knew was coming. A moment later, it did. The phone's ring was jarring in the preternatural silence of the room. Colonel Bennett did not jump at the sound. He took the luxury of waiting for a second ring, then leaned forward and picked up the receiver. He did not say hello, and the voice on the other end did not introduce themselves. They knew each other, and knew why they were speaking.
"You saw the news?"
"Yes," Colonel Bennett said, his voice flat and emotionless.
"There are protocols in place that will mitigate the event."
Colonel Bennett sat back and ran his fingers through his hair. He offered no response, and the voice on the other end did not ask for one.
"It's important now that we think about what comes after. If we want the tree to grow tomorrow, we must plant the seed today. Am I understood, Colonel?"
Colonel Bennett stared straight ahead, beyond the feeble reaches of his desk lamp, into the recesses of his darkened workspace. "I understand," he said.
"When the protocols fail, the official record should accomplish two things: target a scapegoat and allege successful early trials. The tree won't grow if those who remain think the seed was poisoned."
Colonel Bennett blinked. He grit his teeth. "I understand," he said.
"Dr. Krenner must be given everything he needs to render an effective termination. Perhaps the loss will not reach extinction level. Is he prepared?"
Colonel Bennett sighed. "I will speak to him, but yes, he is prepared."
"We will require updates on the work. We have our projections, but we'll be monitoring the protocols in real time. Explain to Dr. Krenner that he has anything he needs but time. Sooner is better than later. Make sure he understands that, Colonel."
Colonel Bennett did not respond. He sat and waited for the voice to finish.
"You have a daughter, isn't that right, Colonel?"
There was a long pause. The blood rushed from Colonel Bennett's face, and he swallowed. "Yes," was all he said. There was a longer pause on the other end of the line.
"The Ark is authorized."
Colonel Bennett blinked again. He let out a long breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "I understand," he said.
"We'll speak again tomorrow."
There was no farewell salutation on either end, only a click in the handset. Colonel Bennett hung up the phone and reached to his left for another. He hit a single button. A single ring later, Dr. Krenner picked up. Colonel Bennett did not waste his words. "Begin human trials. Start with those from the trailer park. But understand, Doctor, your work now is termination of the agent. Human extinction level loss is an outlying parameter, so be diligent with what you have. Am I making myself clear, Dr. Krenner?" Satisfied with the doctor's answer, Colonel Bennett pushed a button and hung up. Without hesitation, he pushed another button, this one for an outside line. He dialed the number from memory. 4 rings later, the line picked up, and a female voice answered. "Hello?" Stephen Bennett took another deep breath. "Nicole?" "It's your father,"